Hello, everyone, and welcome to day number 4, our fourth daily debrief. This is the fifth night in a row live, streaming across multiple platforms, thanks to our partners at EMS One, Fire Rescue TV Network, High Performance EMS, and many other brands that are sharing and allowing us to take over their channels. So my name is Robbie McHugh.
I'm Lisa Geritzi, and welcome. Robbie, I could get used to this every night, talking live to such amazing people, honestly.
We have had some
It's been
incredible guests. We've got more incredible guests waiting in the and speakers from today's sessions in the green room. So yeah, excited to get into it and take people's questions.
absolutely. So if you're joining us live, please put in the comments where you are joining from. We have been getting folks from all over. Hello, Duncan. Duncan is one of our speakers who will be his presentation will be premiering tomorrow, but he's been joining every night. So welcome. I also want to say if you have any questions for our speakers when they come on live, please you can put those in the comments as well, and they will we'll see them and we'll get to as many questions as we possibly can. We do have some questions that have been emailed to us, so we will try to answer those as well. Did you want to start with our sponsors?
Yeah, let's start with our sponsors and tell people if you haven't already gotten your copy of the conference playbook, the EMS Leadership Playbook, there's, I think, 22 pages of information here. We have our schedule for the whole week and the remaining days sessions, as well as some exclusive resources we've included from our speakers and articles. So be sure to visit emsleadershipsummit.com/playbook, and you'll be able to get your copy of that downloadable. We have our sponsors to thank in the virtual exhibitor hall. And folks, this is where you go if you haven't already gone to watch the free sessions today that have premiered. So emsleadershipsummit.com/exhibit. And you can hover over booth number 1 and either click on the free pass, view day 4 sessions. Every day when we premiere these sessions, they're available for 24 hours. If you have already or you'd like to upgrade to an all access pass, for a small fee, that includes lifetime access to all sessions that we've premiered this week, 40 speakers across 30 different sessions, and you can access your all access pass portal with access there, and it will count towards your NEMSMA approved CME credits thanks to our partners over at NEMSMA. We have NEMSMA and NAMI HP, National Association of Mobile Integrated Health Professionals. We have our Lunch and Learn sponsors from today, Image Trend, and Gabe did a fantastic job presenting, looking at leveraging your EPCR data for not only quality improvement, but identifying funding opportunities and automating systems. They also talked a little bit about the utilization of AI and charting and how we can reduce the burden on providers. So it was a great Lunch and Learn. And yesterday we had our friends over at Revenue EMS and Isaac Sobel do a fantastic presentation about found money and identifying money that people might have written off the books and where insurance companies are just underpaying ambulance services. So a lot of great booths here. We've got our friends over at Ninth Brain. If you click onto their booth, you can check out the resources, learn all about Ninth Brain and connect with Bradley here. If you have questions, you want to see their suite of products that include quality assurance tools, workforce scheduling, learning management, credential tracking, and accreditation tools. They've got an incredible suite put together for you. And our friends over at Phase, yesterday we heard from Rick Binder. His family invented the Binder lift there, which they offer a free field trial of. And he's also premiering their new product, the Binder Transfer. He is all about reducing provider injuries, sustaining people for the long haul. And if you want to connect with Jimmy there, he will set you up with a free field trial of these products.
He's got great resources too on his website for free training. He did an amazing session yesterday for all of you who have all access passes. Frankly, I think that alone was worth the price of the all access pass. I mean, just thinking about saving one person from hurting their back or it's getting injured. I mean, the value of that is incredible. He was so generous in his presentation.
And to quote during his presentation, he said, "It's the thing that we do the most, lifting and moving patients, and the thing we probably train on the least. So some fantastic points. He's really committed to helping organizations putting together a beautiful, well-polished patient lifting and handling training that people can take for free. I want to highlight our resuscitation leadership booth here because we have Bob Davis in the green room as well, one of our panelists and one of the people behind 6 Minutes to Live. So we in the past have featured Resuscitation Academy, Citizen CPR Foundation, and now we've got a little feature here for a pretty big documentary style film, 6 Minutes to Live. So be sure to check that out. We had a fantastic interview that premiered today with Hillary Gates, Tom Bouthillet, and Bob Davis. And we'll be able to hear a little bit more from Bob soon talking about that. But I am excited to get other leaders excited about checking out these resources, downloading the 10 steps for improving survival from cardiac arrest, seeing what you can do in your community to have more survivors, to be able to highlight more good stories of what you're doing in your community.
One thing I loved about that guide, because I can't wait to talk to Bob, and I think Hillary's going to join us as well. She's running late, but life-changing, just saying that video and all that. But I went in and looked at that again, and I love how they talk about low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
And you and I have talked about that with leaders about how to alter a culture, but they use it to say there are things you can do that are fairly I don't want to say easy, but like places to start.
Right.
And it's an 80-page document, and that could seem overwhelming, but it's really broken down nicely for folks to really see, like, okay, where do we start? And it's a great I think a really great guide to help somebody step by step.
Absolutely.
Got me inspired.
Yeah, that's what we want. We want more people to raise awareness. That's why we featured that panel, and we put a press release out this week as well, and had a quote from Ann Dahl, the executive director of the Resuscitation Academy, as well as some of our other panelists here. Ann says it takes a system to save a victim. We know what works. The science is clear. What's missing in many communities is the willingness to act. So with that, though, why don't we just go ahead and bring on Bob Davis and Mick Gunderson in the green room. So Bob, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
And Mick, thanks for returning. Great to see you again.
Likewise.
So folks, thanks for your presentations this week. We do have some questions that came in, but maybe we could just start a little bit talking about the journey, Bob, because this has origins from over 20 years ago for you.
Yeah, even further back than that, when I was a paramedic in Denver, I saw this disparity firsthand right there on the border between Denver and Aurora. And it stuck with me as I went on to become a reporter at USA Today and cover EMS. We know about this disparity in the business. We know that some systems do better than others. And it's just really, like you said, pointing to the low-hanging fruit. There's some great opportunities here presented by the Resuscitation Academy. Looking at your data, looking at how you're doing, just courageously looking at your system and your performance creates opportunities to save just a couple more lives at first, but that can really be a big shift for a system. A lot of times I see medics across the country who are in systems that don't perform well, and they really don't think anyone is saved. Every cardiac arrest they go on is basically a dead person. It's really disheartening after a while. And so it really can be an eye-opener when you focus on it and you figure out how to crack the code that may be there in your system, following those 20 steps.
And with that, we actually have Hillary Gates that's just joining us now. Hillary, welcome. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you.
And we were just talking here about the great documentary that you, Bob, and Tom have put together, how touching of a story it is, and how meaningful it is for us to be able to raise awareness with the public around what our numbers are, and that those small changes, the low-hanging fruit, as it was called, have the opportunity to create big results on the other end.
I mean, think about how there are a lot of things in medicine we don't know what works and what doesn't work. This is the thing that we know exactly what works. We know the metrics, the standards, all of the protocols that a system should follow and what a community should do to save more lives. Yet it's not happening everywhere. And there really ought to be an outrage, and there really ought to be a sea change and a groundswell movement, which is why, Bob Davis came back for many other reasons. But we're here as a group to say we're mad as hell and we can't take it anymore in some regards, because when there are proven strategies and tactics and evidence-based medicine like there is for sudden cardiac arrest and a witness shockable rhythm, every system should be performing the same, and we should demand that, and that's what we hope to inspire.
Wow.
Well, I think too, before we go to Mick, and Mick is our quality guy, and this all goes together. I would think the situation that happened with the Buffalo Bill NFL player, right on national TV, and him now playing, and people witnessing him being revived on the field. And obviously I don't know all the details, but I would think, people would start to see, oh my God, this is possible.
That's exactly right. And it took a nationally televised cardiac arrest, perhaps, to open the eyes to people who, we talk about the audience of an NFL game. It's the lay public. It's the Joe on the street, or whatever you want to refer to it as, who saw a person die. They saw a person be responded to in the way that all humans who collapse the way he did should be responded to, and he lived, and he is paying his power. He's using his power to pay this forward in a way that is astonishing and very, very well-meaning, and working with Zoll to go around and really help people understand the magnitude of this and the injustice and the outrage, again, and the disparities. And the cardiac arrest kind of search results and Google hits and all that kind of stuff after Damar Hamlin died, and the requests for training that the AHA and the Red Cross experienced are testimony to people saying, oh, I don't want that to happen in front of me and not have the tools, which are right at the end of their wrists, not have the tools to make a difference. And that's what our story tells, right? I experienced that way before I was a medic, and now I think about it and parlay it into my work as someone who wants to change things.
And our group talked about the ability that communities have now for standard data sets that are out there, including the CARES registry, the cardiac arrest registry, to enhance survivability is a national model. And we looked at a map of the states after we featured the 6 Minutes to Live, to look at what states have opted in statewide, but it still doesn't mean that every agency is submitting to the CARES registry and that every agency is aware of their numbers. And Mick, you're our quality guy. You're our numbers guy. You run the EMS Quality Academy. I mean, what do you have to say about the ability of these agencies to use, not have to reinvent the wheel with a standardized data set and just report their numbers? It's really, they're really not that many per month to report for most places.
Yeah, and it reminds me there's kind of three flavors of science we're talking about here. So there's the research, how does blood flow during closed chest compressions? What should the compression to ventilation ratio be, and the hands-off time, and all that kind of stuff. So that's the clinical science. And then there's the improvement science that is kind of my swim lane, if you will. And that's how do we, look at, measure, and improve our processes over time. But one of the barriers in getting from the clinical research to the improvement science is something that I think a lot of people underappreciate, and that's implementation science. And implementation science is about the translation of that clinical research and the idea that you want to improve, but how do you actually implement this in the real world into your organizations? There's challenges with education, organizational culture, politics. There's all kinds of dimensions to this that I think is important to recognize, not to make it seem, too formidable or anything, but I think it's important to have your eyes open about what you're up against, trying to push this rock up the mountain, so to speak, and get to a better place. And so, understanding the clinical research, by reading your journal articles, staying abreast of what's happening in science, having an infrastructure in place to do improvement projects rather than just buy widgets, put them out on the street and hope for the best. It doesn't work that way. You've got to know what your performance was in your process before you introduce a protocol change or a new piece of gear or a change in policy or procedure, and then implement the change and see if the needle moves. And you got to have the metrics in place to see if the needle moves. And that's the great thing about the CARES registry and the underlying Utstein consensus on how we measure those outcomes, is a lot of that heavy lift has been done for us. But then the work of the actual, agency and its leaders and clinicians in the street is, now how do we actually get this in place? And that's where you can run into political barriers with how do you get city council to allocate money for AEDs versus sewers, solid waste, other sorts of things. Recognize the limitations of there'll be dead babies in the street argument that a lot of people like to use in political discourse. But that has some significant limitations. It's an emotional appeal, but you find as you start getting into implementation science and getting into these political discussions, you need to have some data and illustrate, for every dollar you invest in this, you might get X dollars in return in reduced total healthcare cost savings, clinical outcomes in terms of, for each dollar we invest, we get a certain amount of lives saved, reduced hospital stays. There's all kinds of different ways to objectively make, rational, sound arguments and make a business case as well as the emotional case about why these things should be done.
And there are models that have, other social change issues, like, I always go back to Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, right? Like, there was a time when drinking and driving was no big deal and wasn't a problem. And, it's hard to remember that, but that wasn't that long ago. I mean, I remember that. And now, I'm not saying it's eradicated, but for sure, so much has changed. And that, Mick, I think you're pointing to is, we can learn from these other cases of large social change, and making that business case, showing the cost of these accidents, not just in lives, but in, the caring for people who were, disabled as a result, or, all those kinds of things. And I think that's all based on the tracking the numbers.
Yeah, and that kind of ties into the talk I gave about using these sorts of initiatives to gain competitive advantage and build up political capital. I make the argument that EMS organizations, whether they're public, private, volunteer, whatever, compete. They compete for resources. They compete for public attention and favor. They compete on a lot of different dimensions. And having programs like a good resuscitation process in place that measures its numbers and can demonstrate, a positive delta in its outcomes, is something that not everybody's doing, unfortunately. But because of that, it can differentiate your agencies from other agencies that may be in your area. Which can have a lot of collateral benefits, not only the most important ones with the lives saved and the improved health and welfare of the community, but organizations that are successful and do these things are more attractive to employees. And hasn't that been a big theme in a lot of these leadership summits, recruitment and retention of employees? Who wants to go to work for an agency that doesn't have any survivors from cardiac arrest? So you start thinking about people's job satisfactions, or the other end of the other side of the coin, their frustrations. I did all this training in how to do CPR and resuscitation and double sequential defibrillation and endotracheal intubation and RSI, and throw all the acronyms that apply at this thing, yet no one's surviving in my town. And that's kind of Tom Bouthelot's story. He kind of lived through that, and was able to talk with his colleagues and command staff at Hilton Head and get them to understand the issue, get a little bit of excitement and momentum going inside his organization, conveyed that to the municipal leaders so they could allocate some resources. And we've seen, great things come out of Hilton Head as a result of that momentum. So you can use those quality initiatives to gain that competitive advantage. And gosh, when Hilton Head goes and asks their local elected officials for resources, and they're armed with this kind of data, it makes a pretty compelling argument to support those initiatives, versus, what are other needs in the community, but, get some prioritization there.
I love that. And the ability for us to start to talk to elected officials and have them see EMS as infrastructure worthy of investment. And what you're talking and pointing to, Mick, is the data that's going to back it up, which I think is great. So maybe a two-part question between Bob and Hillary here. Bob, putting your journalist hat on, how do you think EMS leaders should best leverage this opportunity? Your team has put together a fantastic short film. How should community leaders engage with the public or maybe other people, journalistic outlets, to educate the public? And then the question, I guess, for Hillary is, how can EMS leaders leverage this across the healthcare spectrum and to influence people to embrace this excitement? So, Bob, if you don't mind.
I'll just speak for a second on that and let Hillary carry the ball. The EMS leaders really have the opportunity here, as Mick said, to focus on their data. Tom likes to say, show their receipts. If they're not measuring, they need to measure, and they need to start sharing those measures with their political leaders. The saves are great. They're inspiring. They move and inspire political leaders to get involved and take action. But as Mick said, results, data speaks volumes too. And to have the courage to share their data, talk about their data, compare how they're doing. The journalistic approach I took long ago with USA Today was just looking at how the top cities were performing and showing the disparity. If the disparity still exists, you need to roll up your sleeves and face it. It takes courage. It takes courageous leadership. If you know that your numbers could be better, it's, as Tom likes to say, the first couple of years can be tough because but everyone goes up. I've not seen a city that didn't measure and keep measuring that didn't go up steadily. It works. As Mick said, we know the science. We know this works. So I think that's the first part, but Hillary can talk more about the across the board.
When we show this video to people who aren't in EMS, there is a universal wow at the end, of course, because of the emotional factor, of course, but also because most people feel uninformed, a little ignorant, and a little mad that they don't understand that the measure of an EMS system can be seen in how well they run a cardiac arrest and what the survival rates are for cardiac arrest. So all of these lay people, bystanders, family members, friends of ours who have seen this video kind of look at us and think and kind of, are giving us this idea of, I can't believe I didn't know this. I feel like someone's been kind of pulling the wool over my eyes, and what can I do to change it? And that's, so powerful. And we're so grateful for the filmmaking and the ability for Adam Kalinowski, our filmmaker, to get this message across to the lay public. Because once it gets in the hands of the citizen to say this is not acceptable, then there's the dirty little secret of EMS is revealed. And I don't mean to throw anyone under the bus. What Bob said about leaders who recognize even poor performance and then attend to it and see an improvement, that is the mark of a leader. And when we think about the ways in which we like to quote Tom, because he's I call him a walking soundbite, the ways in which people are toiling away amid system dysfunction, especially our telecommunicators, especially folks who are working in systems where everyone in front of them dies of whatever the disease is that is fixable, but for some reason they can't fix it. We see this in incredibly huge numbers in systems that are implementing whole blood, where medics who used to watch trauma patients bleed out in front of them and know that there was nothing they could do, and get to the hospital and say, there goes another one, I just lost another, are going to have moral injury, compassion fatigue, and probably leave their position, because no human can take that over and over again. So when a leader recognizes that they can change that and do everything in their power to empower their clinicians to be able to save lives, the whole system changes. It's a complete sea change. And people wake up and want to go to work, and people wake up and want to do a good job. There is no person in this job that I know I've ever met, and I don't think they're out there, who wakes up in the morning and says, I'd like to do a poor job today and not take care of anyone. It's the complete opposite. We all want to do the best we can and take care of someone and change someone's life, whether it's by holding their hand or by applying the most recent evidence-based medicine in a cardiac arrest. So when I think about what leaders can do, and leaders who have done it and who have implemented these changes, as Mick said, by relying on other systems who have gone through similar scenarios and have similar call volumes, similar populations, similar challenges, urban, whatever it is. And they say, okay, thank you, friend of EMS, for helping me work through this. Then everyone improves, including, not only the patient outcomes and the community, but the whole system. And then we have people who want to come to work every day, and we have evangelists within the ranks going out and saying, you should come work at my place. It's a pretty great place to work. I get taken care of, and my Maslow's hierarchy of needs is satisfied on a daily basis.
Hillary, you were making me think back to when I first met Bob. I was part of the faculty for the National EMS Medical Directors course when Bob's article came out, and we were all very impressed with the article and the buzz that was generated. Paul Pepe dragged Bob to the course on more than one occasion, I'm remembering, and we were all trying to spread the infectious energy between Bob and the people attending the medical director's course. And just a little anecdote, I had saved all of those newspapers and sent them to Tom. So those still shots you see of those newspapers, those were in my scrapbook.
Oh, that's amazing.
So great, Mick. So great.
But the point is that one of the talks in the National EMS Medical Directors course back then was given by Norm Dinerman, and it was on political choreography. Mm-hmm. And part of the political choreography that Bob's article kind of set the stage for is the public reporting of the numbers and establishing some accountability. And that's another route to getting this done. Let's suppose that you're not getting much headway from your local elected officials in giving attention, resources, etc., to this issue. One way that you could consider approaching this is to have a conversation with the media. And something that I thought was going to happen when Bob's articles ran is I was envisioning all kinds of cities all across the country basically taking the template of Bob's story and saying, what is that in Madison, Wisconsin, or Bozeman, Montana, or, you know, wherever it may be, and asking those same questions. I'd still like to see that happen, but that's something that an EMS leader could catalyze in their community, is talking to the local media outlets, you know, talking to that local television station, and showing them the video, telling the story, and tell them of your agency's interest in trying to do this, and you know, generating some public interest to do this, and start public reporting, if not, you know, through city council or whatever, but issue a press release every month or quarter, showing your numbers, reporting on your improvement initiatives. Sometimes this is where the political courage comes in.
Yeah.
You start out, you know, realizing that you may not be doing very good. And that's where it takes a little bit of the political courage. But I think that's in a far better place to be than the public and the media coming to you and saying, what's going on here? What are your numbers? Why aren't you reporting? You know, we're paying all these tax dollars, all these, you know, fees are being charged for responding to cardiac arrest. And, you know, what are your numbers? That's you're behind the 8 ball there. Get out in front of it, get out in front of the issue, and start measuring, start some accountability. And that has an amazing impact on organizational culture, because now all the people in the organization, from the dispatchers to the people stocking the trucks to the people at the tip of the spear responding on calls, all know that the public has an expectation. So when that person is in the supply office, making sure that, you know, they've got the drugs in there, they say, gosh, if I screw this up, you know, on the epinephrine restocking or defibrillation pads, et cetera, there's some consequences that could impact this thing that everybody's looking at us for. It's an amazing dynamic that can be set up. And that's part of the art and science of implementation science, is how to engineer these sorts of organizational changes.
You're spot on. I mean, Hillary touched on it, and we've talked about the mere fact that we included this fact in the press release we put out, is that, like, the 2021 report showing a national 911 profile, that less than 48% of 911 centers are actually trained in emergency medical dispatch and giving TCPR. And out of those 47 point something, 48%, how many are actually focused on it and doing it well, is probably the other interesting question to ask. So pretty staggering statistic. If you're going to run a 911 center and train telecommunicators, and more than half of them are not giving TCPR instructions over the phone or medical priority dispatch for calls, 911, what is your emergency? Most of the time, they're EMS calls.
Hey, Bob, what suggestions would you have of an EMS leader trying to, you know, make a media contact and get some energy behind this?
Yeah, I love it, Mick, because anyone that they have a relationship in their community, if they have political leaders on their speed dial, that's great. You know, Paul Pepe has a speed dial of all the political leaders. Others are more in healthcare or a smaller realm, but you can reach out and find the people who are interested both in the media and public policy. You're going to get the attention of people who grasp this. That's what we're trying to do with the film. We want for you to be able to see it, quickly understand it, have some motivation to do something about it. And then wherever you come from, whatever your sphere of influence is, bring it forward. There's an opportunity to do something about it. And I just want to give a shout out to the 911 dispatchers who are really the unsung heroes a lot of times in these systems, because that's the 6 minutes.
Yeah.
We're not going to be wheels rolling, wheels stop. We're not going to be at the patient's side in those first 6 minutes. So what we really need is for EMS to embrace the 911 operators like we do all of our operations. look at data, look at outcomes, give them support, give them emotional support, give them systematic support, give them quality assurance. So, teach them, guide them, celebrate the wins. You see the successful cities they have the dispatcher right there at the award ceremony where they're standing with the survivor. I mean, this is a team effort, and it's not consistently applied. One of the measures I had in my series was bystander CPR. No high-performing city is not focusing on their bystander CPR rates. It's a key measure in Utstein. It's a key measure for survival. It's a responsibility for EMS to say, we can teach you, we can help you, we can guide you. You're the first responder. You're there before we are. Get hands on chest. It's never been easier. Don't worry about breaths, compressions only. Pick your song, push and don't stop. I mean, it makes a huge difference. And I think that EMS leaders have an ability in their community to step into that role as a civic leader. It's been more the fire chiefs. A lot of times it is the fire chiefs. That's great. They're certainly well positioned. But whoever the EMS director is, whoever the EMS medical director is, the Norm Dynaman, these dynamos sometimes are medical directors or executive directors. It really is an opportunity for them to share their voice, share their perspective, and say, we're in this together. You're the first responder. We're a team. And look at how we're doing it together, support each other. This is, especially at a time when we're so divided across this country, having a reason to come together. We don't care who you are. You're just somebody, you're a neighbor in need. I really think that that's where EMS delivers the unique service that it does. It's such an important healthcare delivery service that is oftentimes unrecognized, and that's in partnership. We're part of the community's part of us. Many agencies are volunteer. Many agencies are, just string and duct tape, trying to keep it together. And let me just say one more thing about that. A lot of those say, I'm barely keeping it together, and you're talking about 1% of my calls. It's really important to realize this is a super important tip of the spear or peak of the pyramid, or however you want to describe it. The high-performing cities recognize that when you do cardiac arrest well, you do other things well. And I don't think there's a city, Hillary mentioned blood, I don't think there's a city that's nailing the blood program that doesn't have a high-performing cardiac arrest system. This is a system approach. If you do this right, it's because you're paying attention to your system, like Mick says, you're following the data, where it leads you. You are focused on quality measures, and you're improving your quality based on your measures, and then you can do everything else well. And as Hillary said, you feel a lot better about yourself when you're in that high performance. One last thing, I've not ever talked to a director of a city that's nailing this, that's one of the best in the country or the best in the world, who doesn't say we do other things well because of this. And a lot of people who haven't looked at their numbers, who say we're fine, that's what's the eye opener. They think they're fine. It looks fine because it looks the same as it's always looked. And it takes a lot of leadership courage to open up the hood and see how you're really doing and say, let's get on the path.
Yeah, there's a humility you have to have in being willing to lift up that rock, and whether it's pretty or ugly, dealing with the information you find under that rock.
Exactly. It is courage, and that's a huge tenet of leadership, right? And to have the DC Fire and EMS Chief John Donnelly calls his shop the largest healthcare provider in Washington, DC, because they are a healthcare leader, and they run the gamut from preventive MIHCP type programs and nurse triage lines and sobering centers and buprenorphine in the field to responding to big house fires and snatching people out of the jaws of death, right? So when you have a leader or a system that is held accountable and also led by someone who believes in the work that we're doing and brings EMS to the healthcare table where it belongs, and believe me, we're getting so much better at that, right? We're getting so much better at being included in the hospital and public health and social determinants of health and all the other things that we recognize EMS does very, very well. Lil Bonsignor was talking about that earlier this week on your academy, and it's it once the rest realizes, and we keep, shouting from the rooftop and tooting our own horn, that's when these metrics become something that should be measured everywhere and should be not taken for granted anymore. And to be able to say to someone, when you call 911 and any place in this entire world, you will be coached by a telecommunicator who knows how to give the right instructions for CPR, period. That should just be the standard.
Yeah, that again, turning back a few decades, again, kind of dating myself here, but there used to be a show on TV that William Shatner hosted called Rescue 911.
Yep.
And there was an anecdote that Jeff Clausen talked about in the National EMS Medical Directors course back in the day, where there was a drowning, I forget what community it was, but it was in Florida, and a young girl was babysitting her younger brother, I believe it was, fell into the pool. She got the sibling out, called 911, and had this expectation that when she dialed 911, this dispatcher was going to coach her through doing CPR on her, younger brother. And they didn't. And the excuse given after the call was over was, well, we just, as an agency felt there was more liability giving these instructions, rather than just, deploying the resources. And the anger from the family materialized in an interesting way. The mother of the child was so motivated and so angered by this, she started an organization. I don't know if it still exists or what the current status of, but it's called Mothers Against Dispatch Negligence, kind of going back to your Mothers Against Drunk Driving example, Lisa. And it called out the political leaders and of the 911 Communication Center that this was just complete, nonsensical logic of the liability issue. But it's a great example of how media created an expectation amongst the citizens that these sorts of things would happen, and political action at a grassroots level to try to catalyze this, much like the emergency TV show created expectations in communities for having modern EMS systems. This sort of scenario plays out over and over and over again. And I think it's important for EMS leaders today to recognize these patterns and perhaps take advantage of those dynamics when there is a cardiac arrest that catches some public attention. Bring attention to some of the issues that are currently in the community that could be improved, not as a negative, but as a positive. We have a 911 communication center. It currently isn't providing dispatch instructions. Wouldn't it be wonderful if resources were allocated to send those people to training and put emergency medical dispatch protocols in place and capitalize on the tragedy to move the political, political will,
right.
Political inertia,
Yeah.
just get it all moving in the right direction. There's a quote, I think it was from Rob Emanuel back in the Clinton administration, about not letting a tragedy go to waste. And that's a great example. Don't let those bad calls that point out flaws in your system go to waste. Use them as opportunities to galvanize attention and energy to keep it from happening again.
And this is a topic that our PR panel, that we've been calling them, Rob Lawrence, Mark Tenia, Alexia Jobson, do such a brilliant job at, is talking about building those relationships even before you need them, so that when something does happen in the community, it's somebody you can reach out to. And I think these are all great examples of what leaders can do to galvanize this moment. They've got a beautifully, you put together such a beautifully composed piece of video for people to consume. And now it's the torch has been passed to us now to go out and use that tool in order to leverage change. And maybe we can shift a little bit of the conversation to a question we had around addressing some of these issues internally, especially when it comes to quality. So I'll just put that up on the screen. Somebody asked, my biggest struggle is to address errors. I don't want to address errors. I don't want to them to feel like
provider
we appreciate the job, but we want to make sure that no mistakes are left unaddressed. So Mick, what is your experience in helping people address some of those errors, and while at the same time balancing is you want to make sure they feel appreciated, and you also don't want to go silent?
Yeah, I think it's in how errors and mistakes are handled in an organization. There's a body of literature, a movement, if you will, that people may have heard about, called Just Culture, which is central to this idea. But in more of the mainstream industries outside of healthcare, organizations that are very mature in their quality management programs kind of embrace a saying or idea that was, I think, advanced by Joseph Duran, who's kind of one of the quality gurus from back in the 50s and 60s and early 70s, along with Deming and some of those other folks. And it was that errors and mistakes are treasures, which seems very counterintuitive. But the point is that when you have an error or a mistake in the performance of a process, it's like revealing a chink in the armor. You go through all of this blood, sweat, tears, expense, time, and toil to design a protocol, to design a process, and you want it to work as good as possible. And in planning out how that process works, you try to anticipate what could go wrong and design it so that it avoids those, but you don't think of everything. So when that mistake occurs, when the problem happens, it is that wonderful insight on a flaw in your process that allows you the opportunity to fix it. And so what you can do as a manager in those situations, rather than being the quality police and saying, gosh, there was a mistake made, shame on you. There was a problem. We need to, send you to training to get re-educated and, retrained, because the problem is with you and your education or recall of the protocol, when indeed it's really the process design that created the opportunity for the problem to be resolved. So the way you can kind of twist that around 180 degrees in a positive direction is say, Hillary, I saw that, that didn't work out so well. You're the person in the organization right now that has the best insight, the most recent, vision of how that problem manifested. Can you help us figure out a way to redesign the process, make an adjustment in the protocol or the training or whatever, so it becomes near impossible or a lot more difficult for this to ever happen again? The emotional reaction of the employee to that, rather than getting called into the medical director's office or the QI person's office to get scolded, is 180 degrees from, tail tucked between your legs and seeing this as a negative to this is a positive opportunity where I now have a chance to help the organization and the community all move forward.
Brilliant. Love it.
I can't say enough about this. I'm sorry, Mick, you got me all fired up. Thank you for asking this. And to the person who asked this question, we talk about feedback and the lack of feedback that most humans get on the job that they're doing, whatever job we're doing, whether it's the job of a sister, a mother, a parent, or a worker, or a paramedic, or whatever. We all really crave feedback, right? We want to know how we're doing. And we often work in systems where we get zero feedback on how we're doing. So we just kind of wander around in a daze wondering if that call we just ran was any good. We get a lot of feedback that might be punitive, as Mick is saying, or maybe the person who wrote this comment is referring to, that feedback might be punitive, and then therefore we feel like all we're doing is yelling at our employees, or somewhere in between. But when we think about feedback, It all starts from this mindset of Maya Dorset and Ginger Locke talk about this in their feedback course, unconditional positive regard. And I'm going to go back to that thing I said earlier about waking up in the morning and saying, I want to make a difference. I want to do a good job, and I want to make someone else feel better. So if our leaders and our supervisors are saying, I know that Hillary's heart is in the right place, and that she wants to do well, and that she didn't screw up on purpose, and that that even if she's a little negligent or lazy or not doing the thing that she is trained to do, there's got to be a reason for that, because in her heart of hearts, she doesn't want to hurt people. So we have that unconditional positive regard. We give feedback to people because they desire it, in the same way that at the end of this summit, I will hound Robbie and Lisa for the comments that came from the summit to hopefully know what I could do better next time. And then we say, as Mick so aptly stated, that in this QI environment, we are striving to repair the patches and the dents and the chinks in the armor of a system failure that allowed that failure to happen, that allowed that mistake to happen. Humans are human. We make mistakes. My medical director always used to say to me, it's not a matter of when, but not a matter of if, but when you're actually going to contribute to someone's demise, or he didn't say kill someone, but he was saying there chance in your life as a paramedic, as an EMS clinician, that you will help someone die sooner than they should. And that's a huge responsibility that most jobs in this world don't have. Right? So when we sign up, we have to recognize the weight of the job. We have to recognize the hearts of our employees and our clinicians, and do the right thing. And any leader that can continue to cultivate that will get from their employees the best performance, mistakes along the way.
Absolutely, Hillary. Yeah.
And Robbie, you opened a can of worms here. Just 2 seconds on this. Just
we love doing this, by
the way. My day job is a leadership coach, and I think it's really important for leaders to understand that in a moment of a mistake, they may sense fear. We have a problem. We're going to get sued. You know, the mind goes to a defensive place. But as Hillary said, I think if you approach it with curiosity, this person didn't mean to make a mistake, and then you just become curious about the person, the incident, the timing, what was going on, the system. It's just a better place for leaders to, if they can shift. But it requires that shift in thinking. It's not intuitive. We're pretty excited about it. We're pretty disappointed about it, especially if it's a negative outcome. My trainer in Denver, it was not Mike Tagman, it was the heir of Mike Tagman, did say you will kill somebody. And you need to decide now how you're going to react to that. Are you going to be a better medic, or are you going to quit? Because if you're going to quit, I don't want to invest in you. But this is it's a high stakes business. And you're leaning in, and you're courageously going into this, and things are going to go wrong. And I think that we need to honor that. That's where we're working. We're working in the front line. We're working in this place that is unpredictable. A lot of things are going to go wrong. A lot of things are going to happen at once. I covered air safety for USA Today. It takes multiple system failures to result in a whole lot crash. Same thing with the death. It's not one thing. It's the labeling of the medication. It's our protocol. It's how much sleep I had. It's all these other factors that lead to a deadly error. And we need to have compassion for that and approach it from a system point of view with care.
We had the authors of the book, The Power of Systems, how to create a life that works, I think it's called. And it's an incredible book. They were on day one, Steve Chandler and Trevor Timbeck, both leadership coaches. And that's the whole message of that book. And systems in general, is systems theory, it's never one thing. The human brain wants to find cause and effect. It's a myth. There's no such thing as cause and effect. It's a handy conversation, but it's not true. There's just to get to and from the grocery store, so many things have to go right? But we don't think about it that way. We think, oh, I did that, right? No, nobody hit you. You're good, right? But I didn't have anything to do with that. So, I think that it's so powerful to see all of what we're talking about, and when someone makes a mistake, is it really even a mistake, right? It's a system failure. So the less these things get taken personally, and you then have the person interested in like what you were saying, Hillary, give me the feedback, let me see how I can do better inside this system.
Yeah, yeah. Fantastic way, I think, to wrap up this panel. Great answers to questions that are on the minds of many people that have been writing in and watching at the EMS Leadership Summit. I so appreciate you all taking your time here. Maybe as we wrap up here, just some final thoughts. I'm excited for more people there's still time to go watch those sessions. So head over to emsleadershipsummit.com/exhibit, click on booth number 1 to watch today's lineup of sessions. So if we could go first, we said
Hillary.
Yep. Sorry. If you could just give us your final thoughts for leaders and where they can maybe find more of you in the 6 minutes to live.
Thank you so much, Robbie and Lisa. This has been an incredible opportunity for us to get the word out. And my thoughts are just kind of more on what I've said before, which is that when all of us can remember when we were first starting in this job and when we were first rookies or kind of deer in the headlights and had no idea what we were doing. And someone stepped up and mentored us or coached us or was there for us when we were asking the stupid questions. And don't forget that. Don't forget that there are people like that every day in your shop, and be there for them and be the person that you needed when you were coming up, or the person who said your name in the room full of opportunities. I read that somewhere and really liked it. And as far as 6 minutes to live goes, I think the thing that's really struck me as a person who's not practicing clinically anymore, but has been in the education space for a long time, really loving that, is this idea that everyone can make a difference. And as Bob says in the video, the will to do this starts right here. And to care for a perfect stranger or to someone that you don't know, or to stop what you're doing in your busy day to check on someone, is not only something that could save someone's life ultimately, but is a model for the way our community should be behaving. And I love what Bob said about EMS leaders being civic leaders and being the voice and the face on the video or the face on the news or on social media in the industry that says it is my job as a person who provides 911 service, but really more than that, right? Healthcare to the community. It's my job to make sure we're all safe and that we all take care of each other. So whether it's as a clinician that you as a paramedic or an EMT are teaching other people how to do CPR or explaining how AEDs work or what happens when you call 911, just those little conversations can really kind of make this kind of movement take off. And that's what we hope 6 Minutes to Live does, is telling stories, and let us know. Go to our website, which is 6minutestolive.com, and subscribe to our newsletter and leave comments on our videos and let us know what we're doing that's helping and that what we need to do to help you. We've already had a number of people reach out and really have lots of opportunities in this space to save more lives and really improve sudden cardiac arrest survival. Thank you.
Beautifully said. Thank you, Hillary. Appreciate it. Bob.
She said it all perfectly. That she's our creator, our president, and our creator. So, the only thing I would say is I would amplify what she said. Join us. Reach out to us. You, EMS leaders, you are our heroes. We know how hard your job is and how many things you're juggling and how many challenges you face. We're here to help you. So. If the video is moving to you, share it widely, use it, put it in your presentations. It's yours. Do with it whatever you want. If it's helpful to show to people, please do. And as Hillary said, join us. Let us know how we can help you. If you have questions, Hillary knows everyone. Tom knows everyone. We know people who can help you, and we want to be of help. As Mick said, we hope that this spreads. We hope that this really gets everywhere. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
And Mick, final thoughts wrapping up.
Yeah, one of the common threads I see running through this is this whole idea of just culture. If you have bad resuscitation survival rates, it's not an issue of blame. It's an issue of system design. So I would urge everybody to take a closer look at Just Culture, because it will support your efforts to improve resuscitation survival rates. It will enhance your quality assurance and improvement initiatives. It'll do a lot of things for you.
Fantastic. And Mick, where can people find information about EMS Quality Academy and maybe how they can do more of this in their organizations?
Yeah, so Center for Systems Improvement is the website is improvethesystem.com. But we do have the EMS Quality Academy at emsqualityacademy.com. And if you're interested in this kind of stuff, I'd urge you to go to our YouTube channel, where I have a series called Quality Over Coffee, and short little snippets where I actually shoot them in coffee shops. And it's as if you joined me for a cup of coffee and we have a topic about a little piece of quality management. And I would encourage people to check that out.
Fantastic.
That's a great idea. I love that.
Thank you, all
So
three of you,
cool.
for attending our live daily debrief, and for showing up, for putting your energy and effort into today's day 4 lineup of sessions. I'm excited for more people to watch. So thanks for being here.
And before you leave, Hillary, I don't know if you and Bob heard me when I said this at the very beginning. I watched your session today and it changed my life. It's powerful. And I really encourage people to just do that. Like, it is so powerful. It is life-changing. And yeah, so thank you both. And please thank Tom for me.
Will do. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Mick. Great to have you back. And thanks for a great session as well.
Thank you for having all of us.
All right.
Great to hang out with you, Mick.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Oh, what a fantastic panel. What a fantastic day's worth of sessions. Lisa, there's so many great presentations that we featured today. And those were just 2 of them.
I know. I'm just going to say that. I'm thinking, those are 2 of the 6 I think we had today.
Yeah.
Plus that lunch and learn.
Plus
I
the
saw
lunch and
so
learn.
many, the flurry of emails I saw after yesterday's lunch and learn and today's, people saying how great it was and thank you so much. And it's like, this has been just amazing. Every year we do this and it gets better and better and better. And yeah, maybe we should talk about a couple of the other sessions so people know what else they can look for today.
Yep.
There's still time to register for a free pass. You can watch the ones from today until 8 a.m. tomorrow. And then tomorrow there'll be another lineup of presentations. So we can go, oh yeah, and us.
How about our presentation that we put together? We talked about a new leadership approach to a chronic problem, and giving folks some frameworks of how to look at the situation as solvable, and instead of constantly trying to react to the symptom of a bigger problem.
Yeah. And I love that. For me, the not to belabor the point, but the 6 minutes to live and this citizen CPR and that whole thing fits so beautifully inside of our framework, right? Because you're looking here and seeing, what can I change? What do I need to change? And then change at the level of others. And then what do we want to create, right? And it's just a perfect project, you could say, for that. And yeah, so there's a lot of new information in this particular training that we did, and I look forward to hearing people's comments on it,
including how to quantify the cost of turnover in a very easy formula and some updated numbers that were just released recently. So
what you measure, right? You can't change it if you don't measure it.
We've talked about the 6 Minutes to Live panel and included a link to the press release, as well as Rick Rippenthal, a veteran paramedic from the BC EHS, who was in a supervisory role and now in his retirement after almost 30 years of clinical, he is helping others in coaching other people, and talked about, I thought one of the lines I remember him saying was that, these are the same problems that people are complaining about, as he was looking at the What Paramedics Want survey. These are very similar problems to what he heard 30 years ago. And you both had a conversation about, how you could look at these complaints, what perspective you could take on them.
Yeah, and there really is there is a solution to it. It doesn't have to keep going the way it's going, and that's one of the things that I think our session and Rick's session really point to is
Right.
the solution. Like there really is a way to solve these issues so
And it
that they
comes
don't
from us.
perpetuate. Say it again.
And it comes from us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Marcus
and
Bush,
Marcus.
a returning speaker, talking about the organization he has landed in. He has been in a few different fire department-based EMS systems, and talks about the culture of the organization, having a right fit culture, as well as an EMS operations chief, deputy chief of EMS operations. We had a great conversation about what you permit, you promote, and kind of a mantra for leaders. So I encourage you to check out that session, as well as we heard from Mick Gunderson tonight. He's the editor-in-chief of the International Journal of Paramedicine. He wears many different hats in the world of quality and does a fantastic job helping improvement science, quality improvement really makes sense, and shares an approach to how you can adopt that in your organization and leverage it for more political capital.
Before you talk about Megan, I have to say this, and I'm not just blowing smoke. Before I met Mick, however long ago, I used to think quality was kind of boring and just something you had to do. And then in every conversation I have with Mick, or every presentation he does, I see it a whole different way. And the
There's hope.
possibilities, it's like,
Yeah.
it's a whole paradigm shift. And it's such an essential element for creating an organization like you and I talk about, a thriving organization.
Yeah.
And a magnetic, thriving organization. So highly recommend anything Mick does. I can't wait to go check out his YouTube channel. I didn't know he was doing that. It's great.
And a returning speaker, Dr. Megan McLaren from the Wayfound Group in Canada, as well as the Before Operational Stress program, talking about their programs and how they're partnering with universities to study, making sure that the programs that they're putting out there are actually supporting people's resilience. And I've mentioned the statistic here on our live session that the average civilian is exposed to 3 traumatic incidents in a lifetime. And our first responders and paramedics are being exposed to, on average, 100 per year. So it's always a fantastic conversation with Megan, and I'm excited that she continues, her and her team, to develop new resources for leaders, and that she's got the science to back it up. I think one of the programs has over the Before Operational Stress program deployed to over, I think now the number is 80,000 frontline professionals across North America. So
yeah,
kudos to
and
her.
she's passionate. Man, is she passionate. She's been a big supporter of our summit, and really great to have her back in the lineup.
So, folks, that's a wrap for our 4th day of the daily debriefs. We would encourage you to check out the virtual exhibitor hall at emsleadershipsummit.com/exhibit. Check out our different booths. Lisa and I have a program premiering in June, a 2-day live leadership program that is fully remote. And we get to give everyone a front row seat, and we get to put people into breakouts, and people come away with that with a newfound sense of hope, reinventing themselves as a leader. We've got some great testimonials on this page as well. So be sure to check out. We've packaged this into a 2-day program and made the 3rd day an optional strategy day. So be sure to at least carve out 2 days to attend this with us live. And it could change your life, could change the trajectory of your organization.
Yeah, we have gotten amazing feedback long term too. There's evidence for a lot of trainings where, right after the training, you see this increase, right? But then usually within 4 to 6 weeks, there's a downturn. And with the kind of training you and I do, the transformational based training, transformational education, it actually continues to rise, because you're not just getting information, you're actually taking information away that was getting in your way, blind spots, and you start to see the world differently. And so once you understand how the human brain actually works and how performance actually works, it you get better and better at it. So, that's what I love. And we get, calls from people a year later saying, you're not going to believe this. You wait till you hear what we've accomplished here. And
we have a waiting list of people, which is
yeah,
fantastic to hear.
I was reviewing our communication course today for something, doing some work on it. And one of the testimonials in there from one of the providers was like, he can tell you the day and time that he was in the 2-day, at that time it was a 3-day training, and what the transformation was. And it was a year later, and he was still riding high from that. And his whole leadership journey changed. So yeah, we're tooting our own horn, folks, but we've put together something pretty incredible, and we encourage people to sign up.
Send your current and future leaders. Like, I don't think people can afford not to attend some of these sessions and slow down and take the time. So
Yeah.
But of course, we want to thank all of our sponsors, and we've had such a great response from participants. There's still time to watch day 4's session. Lisa, anything else to wrap up today?
Not that I can think of. I'm just so grateful. I'm grateful to you. I'm grateful to our speakers. I'm so grateful to our sponsors. Honestly, without them, we could not do this as a free conference. And where else can you access 40 plus world renowned speakers, masters in their fields for free? Even if you're not watching all 6 presentations each day, you could be watching 2 or 3, and it's so amazing. And then, of course, we highly recommend the All Access Pass, because you have lifetime access, the possibility of CMEs if that's something you're interested in. But more importantly, you have a library. Anytime you're having a leadership challenge, you can go and watch one or two of the programs and have a whole new insight, a whole new possibility. It's really like having your own coach, once you have the all access pass. So I highly recommend that. But even still, watch today's sessions. Please watch the 6 Minutes to Live. You will be so glad you did.
So good. I'm so excited that we were able to put that panel together, and that they allowed us to feature it and show it, and that we can help spread the word. So
I know last year with Honorable But Broken, premiering that, this year, having the opportunity to feature it. I mean, damn, so exciting. I get so moved by it all.
All right, my friend. Well, thank you everybody for joining us tonight. There's still time for day number 4, but we will see you live tomorrow at our last daily debrief on day number 5.
Can't believe it. All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you.